Chapter 9, The Truth About Mr. Cooper. We were in the vomitorium eating lunch. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Michael had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Neil and Alexia had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. In case you were wondering, we all had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Well, everyone except Ryan. He had a jelly and peanut butter sandwich. He likes to do things backwards. One time, Ryan invented the witch sand, which is a sandwich with the stuff on the outside and the bread in the middle. Mr. Cooper is weird, I said to the gang. He's always falling down and tripping over his own feet. He's kind of a doofus, said Ryan. We all laughed, because doofus is a funny word. It's hard to say doofus without laughing. Yeah, superheroes aren't supposed to fall down so much, said Alexia. Shh, whispered Neil. Mr. Cooper might hear you. How could he possibly hear us? Asked Michael. Maybe he has super hearing, whispered Neil. He told us he can make himself invisible. He may be standing behind us right now. We all turned around. Mr. Cooper wasn't there. Just to be on the safe side, I took out a pen and wrote a secret message on my napkin. Maybe Mr. Cooper isn't a real teacher. I showed my napkin to the gang. They all grabbed pens and started writing secret messages on their napkins. Alexia, maybe he locked our real teacher in an abandoned barn. Ryan, and he's going to set it on fire. Michael, I saw that in a movie once. Neil, stuff like that happens all the time. There you can see a real good picture of the gang eating their sandwiches. Me, fire is cool. At the next table, Andrea and Emily were looking over at us. What are you doing? Andrea asked. We're writing secret messages, I told her, so Mr. Cooper can't use his super hearing to listen to what we're saying. Oh, Andrea sat back down. She had on her worried face, like she was expecting an asteroid to strike the Earth or something. What's bugging you? I asked her. Did you get an A- on something? I'm worried about Mr. Cooper, Andrea replied. What about him? Sometimes these pages are hard to turn. My mom is a psychologist, Andrea said, and she told me that when people dress up in costumes all the time, it's because they're sad and lonely and don't like their own lives. What? That's crazy, I said. Maybe Mr. Cooper just likes dressing up in superhero costumes. Or maybe he really is a superhero, said Alexia. Or maybe he's just sad and lonely and he needs a hug, said Emily. Well, how are we going to find out which it is? Asked Neil. That's when I came up with the greatest idea in the history of the world. Let's go sneak around and spy on him, I suggested. Yeah, everybody agreed, even Andrea and Emily. Spying on people is cool. We cleaned off our trays and sneaked out of the vomitorium. Then we sneaked down the hallway. Then we sneaked over to our classroom. I was the first one to peek inside. I saw Mr. Cooper through the little window in the door. He's in there, I told the gang. Shh. Everybody shushed me. What's he doing? Asked Andrea. It looks like he's eating a sandwich, I reported. There he is. What kind of sandwich? Asked Ryan, who is really into sandwiches. Who cares what kind of sandwich he's eating? Asked Alexia. It could be important, said Ryan. It doesn't matter what kind of a sandwich he's eating, said Michael. It does too. It does not. We went back and forth like that for a while. As we were arguing, the door suddenly opened and Mr. Cooper came out. What are you kids doing here? He asked. Shouldn't you be eating in the lunchroom? I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. I had to think fast. Aha! I said, we caught you. Caught me doing what? Asked Mr. Cooper. We caught you eating a sandwich, I said. Superheroes need to eat too, said Mr. Cooper. We need to keep up our super strength. Why don't you eat in the teacher's lounge? Asked Neil. Yeah, said Alexia. Why don't you eat in the teacher's lounge? The door was locked, Mr. Cooper told us. Mr. Klutz didn't give me a key yet. Why don't you use your super strength to kick down the door to the teacher's lounge? Asked Ryan. Yeah, said Michael. If you were a real superhero, you would kick down the door. had a point. Besides, kicking down doors is cool. On cop shows, they never use the doorknob to open a door. They just kick it down. What's up with that? When cops are at home with their families, do they kick down the doors whenever they enter a room? I tried to kick down a door once, but I hurt my foot. If I kicked down the door to the teacher's lounge, we'd have to get a new door, said Mr. Cooper. He was right about that. Do you need a hug? Andrea asked Mr. Cooper. I can always use a hug, he replied. Will you give me a super hug? We all gave Mr. Cooper a big group hug, but I still didn't trust him. He always has some excuse for not using his superpowers. I was beginning to think that maybe Mr. Cooper wasn't a superhero after all. Maybe, for a change, Andrea was right. And tomorrow I will read you the conclusion to our story.